What's up guys, welcome back. Now we're going to be talking about a few things in this video. First of all, the Switch Mini rumor, and of course the Switch Pro, and some very interesting information on the PlayStation 5 and its emulation properties. So we have a lot to discuss, so let's go ahead and get started. So as you all know by now, Nikkei, the Japanese website, reported that Nintendo is planning to release a Nintendo Switch Mini, or a smaller version of the Switch, in 2019 to boost sales even further for the Nintendo Switch brand. And if you recall, I did a video on this, actually my first video of 2019 in January. There was an article highlighting some predictions from analysts. One of them was Sirkin Toto, who has gotten things correct in the past. And while he is an analyst, he actually does get insider information of what is going on with hardware and software in the industry. One of the ones was that he was the first to rumor very early on in 2016, I believe, that the Nintendo NX was getting Smash Brothers fairly early on in its life cycle, which was true. And now, very interestingly enough, he called out that the Switch was going to be getting a revision of a small version of the Nintendo Switch, and of course a Nintendo Switch Pro as well, in early January. And so far he's been proven right on everything that he said, except of course for the Switch Pro, which is yet to be confirmed by Nintendo, but I do think this is also going to happen as well, and we'll discuss that more as we go on. But he said back there in early January, he said that while the 2019 Switch Pro has already been reported to be in development by the Wall Street Journal, which he's saying that was a Switch Pro, I also think Nintendo will offer a Switch Lite, which of course was reported on a few weeks later, or just keep the current version at a lower price to cover the lower end of the spectrum and offset sinking 3DS sales. So he's been right so far on this, and that's basically what Nintendo's reported on doing, is that they're going to release a Switch Lite or Switch Mini version to offset the very drastically sinking 3DS sales, which I believe have dropped by over 50% from the last holiday season. So the 3DS is on its way out, it's about to die, and Nintendo wants to replace that. And a Switch Mini or Switch Lite does make perfect sense, like we talked about in the first video of this year. Now, the rumor reported on by Nikkei talked about having a smaller version of the Switch, removing the Joy-Cons from it and selling them without a dock to play on the TV. So really, when you think about it, that sounds like a different console than the Nintendo Switch. Even though it would be Switch by name, that doesn't sound like the Nintendo Switch that we all know about. A Switch being sold with no Joy-Cons and no dock would basically just be a Nintendo 3DS with one screen with enhanced capabilities with a Nintendo Switch processor, or variation of it shrunken down basically. So I wouldn't necessarily consider this an upgrade to the Nintendo Switch. I would consider this a different variation of the Switch, sold at a much lower price, quite possibly to a younger demographic, for under $200. And that makes sense from a hardware and sales aspect of it for Nintendo to do that, to sell more Switch systems at a much lower price, cutting out the Joy-Con usage and being able to play on the TV. So I know some would consider this to be a downgrade because it's missing features. That would probably be a good idea for Nintendo to release a portable only version of it for the demographic like that who likes to play outside or take it wherever they go and actually not play on the TV. That would be a good idea to release a variation of that. And getting back to what Sirkin Toto said, he said that the 2019 Switch Pro was already reported on by the Wall Street Journal. So this sounds like a different upgrade to the Nintendo Switch, because the Wall Street Journal did talk about upgrading the console, not removing features. It actually talked about upgrading it, and that Nintendo was actually still considering which features to upgrade, with the screen quite possibly being one of those upgrades. So the information that Nikkei got and the information that the Wall Street Journal got sounds like two different types of consoles there. And also, if you looked at my last video, we did highlight some features that Nintendo was in development on for a new console coming, and from what they're working on, that did not sound like a portable only system, because one of the highlighted features that was discovered was that Nintendo was looking for someone to develop 3D spatial audio for a new console. And 3D spatial audio is a key feature for when you're playing at home theater aspects, surround sound, they got that immersion and everything like that. And they also highlighted hiring interns to work on profiling tools for this new system as well. And as we talked about, profiling is used for various things like backwards compatibility, running the console in different power states, docked and in portable mode. So that did not sound like a portable only system. When you play outside, you would not need any kind of 3D spatial audio for that. You would just be playing outside. There would be no reason to include 7.1 surround sound, 3D spatial audio, and even voice chat recognition, which is one of the things that they were working on in those job descriptions. That doesn't sound like the same type of device being reported on by Nikkei. It sounds like a console that's been shrunk down and taking features away from it in order for it to be cheaper. And if you look at the Nintendo 2DS, that is obviously made with downgraded materials. Even though it has basically the same processor as the original 3DS, the new Nintendo 3DS and new Nintendo 2DS have upgraded graphics capabilities, CPU, and better materials for the console itself. But of course, it is more expensive. So the point I'm getting at is the Nintendo Switch Mini, I do not think would be the only new Switch coming. I do think there's also still the Nintendo Switch Pro also being heavily developed on behind the scenes by Nintendo, and we've gone over all the evidence here that that does look like to be the case. When you think about PlayStation 5, it is very likely that Sony could be revealing PlayStation 5 at the end of 2019, possibly at a PSX, or in early 2020 at their own event. For example, people have discussed this in the past. PlayStation 5 is on the way, and it's coming very, very soon before you know it. So for Nintendo to not have any kind of upgrade to the current Nintendo Switch, which already does not get very many PlayStation 4 ports, I'm talking about PlayStation 4, PlayStation 5 would be completely out of the question unless they had a new upgraded version of the Switch. I think we all can agree on that. And I've seen various other YouTubers say exactly the same thing, is that Nintendo really needs to have a upgraded Nintendo Switch by the time PlayStation 5 comes out in 2020 at the very latest. And when you think about it though, if you think along those lines, if Nintendo waits until holiday 2020 to release an upgraded Nintendo Switch Pro, for example, and the PlayStation 5 is released at the same time, Nintendo's already going to be way behind the ball there, because the PlayStation 4 is going to have over 100 million sales by that time. And those fans who are very happy with their PlayStation 4, it's been a good console. If Nintendo waits too long to release an upgrade for the Nintendo Switch, their current Nintendo Switch quite possibly could be left behind really easily and not get any of those new AAA games from third party at all. And Nintendo has gone on record just recently saying that they want all third party games to be on their console. Obviously, it's not all going to be possible on the Nintendo Switch currently, but they would like to have AAA third party support on the system. And I guarantee you that will never happen if they don't release an upgraded Nintendo Switch. And 2020 would be the absolute latest I think they would do it, because of the PlayStation 5 storming in there basically and scooping up all those PlayStation 4 users who are going to upgrade to the next console, because it is looking like the PlayStation 5 will be backwards compatible with PlayStation 4 and previous consoles as well from PlayStation. So it does make perfect sense for Nintendo to jump on the ball now and release a Switch Pro and Switch Mini basically in time for the holidays this year, expand their user base to get ready for the next generation of consoles, to make sure developers are prepared and have enough time to get used to the new hardware from Nintendo before the PlayStation 5 comes out, in order to get ports from PlayStation 5 to make it less like the situation with Nintendo Switch, where it came into the market about 4 years after the PlayStation 4 was already on the market. And developers simply thus far have not wanted to support the Switch that much, because PlayStation 4 is already well established, and then now PlayStation 5 is already on the way. No doubt development kits are already out there with AAA third party. There's simply not going to be AAA third party right now on Nintendo Switch that developers are going to be jumping on to put their games on the system with that new console on the way. So if Nintendo does prepare them with a new console now, which is what this rumored to be doing, then Nintendo will be more adequately prepared for the next generation, which is coming next year, very, very likely. So on this channel, we'll continue to talk about these variations of Nintendo Switch, whether it's Switch Pro, Switch Mini, and when more information does arise, we'll continue to talk about it. Of course, interestingly enough, none of this has been officially confirmed by Nintendo, which is kind of funny, but you have to think a portable Switch only and a upgraded Nintendo Switch Pro will of course be coming in the not too distant future. So speaking of PlayStation 5, there's been two very interesting patents that have been discovered. Most recently, I believe the last couple days, has been this patent for a future PlayStation console or consoles or whatever. They didn't specify in the patent, of course, but a future PlayStation console will be able to spoof previous PlayStation consoles and their functionality. So PlayStation 1, PlayStation 2, PlayStation 3, PlayStation 4, maybe even PSP, maybe in Vita, what have you, they'll be able to actually emulate those CPUs exactly with this new patent. And the patent was signed off by Mark Cerny. So full backwards compatibility would be an amazing feature of PlayStation 5. But what is more interesting about this patent is that it seems to be directly connected to the previous patent that Sony released in late 2018, I believe in October, talking about remastering by emulation was the name of the patent that they filed. And this remastering by emulation is totally awesome, and if they do implement this with PlayStation 5, it's going to be a huge improvement to playing those old legacy games like from PlayStation 1 and PlayStation 2 in 4K resolutions, for example. The patent describes basically an algorithm being used in the new hardware in order to calculate improvements to graphics, basically kind of like that thing that Nvidia did with the Shield tablet in China, where they were able to improve the graphics of Twilight Princess emulated from the Wii on the Shield tablet automatically on the fly with deep learning. It looks to be something similar to that, where the PlayStation 5 will be able to improve the graphics of PlayStation 1, PlayStation 2, PlayStation 3, what have you, on the fly, and correct various aspects of an image where it looks extremely pixelated from the original assets and upgrade them to 4K on the fly. And I'll leave the link in the description for this patent. It is a very amazing technology idea that Sony has here, and it works in multiple different ways. They can set up an algorithm where a developer can create the assets, and then when you run that old game, then the algorithm will pick up the updated graphics or features from the remastered version that the developer decides to put in there, and it'll implement them into the game automatically. Or they can use it the automatic way, where the CPU or what have you of the PlayStation 5 will calculate the correct aspects of the graphics to improve on its own, thus making the game look better naturally on a 4K display, improving textures, frame rate, what have you, all on its own through some type of deep learning algorithm, advanced AI. And doing it automatically would be a straight shot, upgrade for all games running from those old systems on a new piece of hardware. And of course, the more intricate ones, maybe the developer will go in there and create their own assets to renew them, and they could do it that way. But remastering, quote unquote, by emulation is a fantastic idea, and would really help renew and refresh those old classic games from PlayStation without having to actually change them or remake them. That is an amazing technology, and I really hope that not only Sony does this, but also Nintendo does this as well with their next systems, emulating old games, being able to do deep learning and upgrade the graphics on the fly, which would really be an awesome thing to see. No doubt you guys would agree about that. So taking all these things into consideration, I do think technology is advancing at a very fast rate, and these type of technologies are really cool to see being used by these companies. I do think Nintendo will be releasing a more advanced upgraded Switch that quite possibly could also have the ability to do these type of things as well, but we will wait and see about what they announce later. So let me know what you think about all this in the comment section, guys. We have a lot of exciting things going on in the industry, a lot of new hardware is coming out, and we're going to be seeing a lot of that very soon. So like we've been talking about, 2019 is going to be a huge year. We're just getting started still. There's a lot more to come, so stay tuned. And when there's more major news to talk about, we'll definitely talk about it right here when it happens. Alright guys, if you did enjoy this video, please hit the like button, subscribe for more, and I'll talk to you very soon in the next video. Have a great day.